Hi folks. We are working hard in the legislature to stiffen penalties against career criminals in Pennsylvania. Citizens routinely complain, and rightfully so, that criminals are often sentenced to prison only to serve a portion of their allotted time. They are then released back into society where they wreak yet more havoc. Here's one example. Currently, when a criminal commits a robbery while using a gun, the perpetrator may be sentenced to 5 years in prison for the robbery and 5 additional years for having used the gun in the commission of the crime. You'd expect this lawbreaker to serve a total of 10 years in jail, right? After all, 5 plus 5 equals 10. But that's not always how it works. Unbelievably, a judge may decide that a perpetrator can serve his or her 2 5-year sentences concurrently. Thus, in effect, this violent criminal will only serve 5 years total when it should have been a sentence of 10 years. House Bill 44, which I've introduced, would impose stricter sentencing guidelines for hardcore violent criminals, mandating they serve their sentences for gun crimes consecutively with other sentences, not concurrently. Some say this is too harsh on first-time offenders who may have just made a bad choice. Absolutely not. This proposed law would apply to violent criminals who use guns to commit their crimes. That's not just a simple mistake. Others raise the issue of the cost of keeping prisoners in jail longer. After all, they say, aren't our prisons already overcrowded? Criminals who use guns are the very type of people we need to keep behind bars to protect the public. In such cases, we are dealing with offenders who represent a violent threat to the community. Fortunately, the number in this category is much smaller than the general criminal population. The small amount of space they would take up is worth it to protect our citizens. There is bipartisan agreement on this issue, and I am pleased to work with my Democratic colleague, Representative Tony DeLuca from Penn Hills, who submitted this idea in past years. I've always asserted that we do not need more gun laws, but instead need to enforce the laws we already have on the books. House Bill 44 would do that and should be embraced by both pro-gun and anti-gun forces. It is time we put criminals on notice that we demand law-abiding behavior. Let the word go out from here that if you commit a violent crime and you use a gun, you will suffer the maximum punishment in Pennsylvania. Thank you, and God bless.